you ask me a question, I give you an answer.
And I enjoy your answer. That's why, I like the differing answers so that you can sometimes say the things that are in my head that I don't feel comfortable saying yet. Now, what is up, football fans, but most importantly, UFL fans? Welcome to episode, I don't even know anymore because I haven't been here, but Tugboat has. So, polar opposites, we're going into week 8 of the UFL. It's Ace, but instead of Webb, instead of Arik, we got Tugboat, his second week in a row. FBI Tugboat, how you doing, brother?
Hey, doing fantastic. Making a back-to-back appearance on Polar Opposites. We called it Solar Opposites last week. We're back to the normal name.
I saw that, and then everybody voted me off of Survivor. But real quick, why do you call yourself FBI Tugboat? This is a question I've wondered since I recruited you to UFM.
Yes. This is a very old gamer tag. It's a stage name. I'm a commentator mostly for esports as well as plenty of traditional sports. I mostly work within Rocket League, Overwatch. I also do plenty of traditional sports. I'm literally flying to Montana to cast an arm wrestling competition in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
This came from I'm going to short story you. Basically, some 16-year-olds convinced 13-year-old me that they were playing with the final boss squad in Halo 2. I'm not sure if you played back in the day. I'm not sure how old you were if you were playing video games then. But final boss was the team, and they convinced me that we were playing online with them. We were scrimming with them, and I had to change my name from Sinless Tugboat to FBI, standing for Final Boss Initiate Tugboat, playing with them. I then got a C, I think, on a biology test, and my dad basically threw the Xbox out the window and they replaced me on the team. It was also $8 to change your gamer tag, and so I never did it. And now it's very, very unique, and I love it, and that's what the majority of people in my life who aren't related to me call me.
I love the random way that people create gamer tags on Xbox. My brother and I are just rephrasings of our last name, and we made them. We've never changed them ever because, like you said, you got to pay for it. But we got KB in the background. KB, say what's up.
Hey, what's up?
All right, KB, I have another question for you.
I want to know.
Does his background look similar?
That's what I was just going to say. I was going to say, I want him to tell how he got in your studio.
I mean, he's sitting on my lap right now, and we're just swapping cameras, I guess.
I've never seen your background before, so I'm not really sure what's going on here. I'd appreciate it if you didn't try and take my background again. I'll pick my football up if you want me to.
Please don't steal. What is it? Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. So,
Office fan, I love it.
There you go. I've seen them all. I don't even call myself an Office fan, but I have seen all of them at some point.
The
not in a row.
Episodes are
fantastic.
It's like the made content. Go ahead. Yes. We're not here to talk about The Office.
We'll make another show about that. But for right now, we're going to talk about football. But before we do that, we got to roll the music. All right, and we're back. This week, we have, as always, a fan question. The fan question is not a question that a fan sent in, but a question that we are sending out to the fan, and we would like for you to comment on our video. Let us know your answer, what you think. KB, what is our fan question this week?
All right, so our fan question is about relocation.
Okay.
If you could move one current UFL team, where and why?
Tuggernaut, you go first.
Absolutely. My knee-jerk answer about where to relocate, right, is to take the sinking, hapless Memphis showboats down from Memphis in their suffering, take them back down to New Orleans. My only issue with that I immediately think of is, of course, that the USFL famously had attendance issues last year. And if that's one of the main things I'd try to fix in Memphis, unfortunately, the people have not shown out. They have cast their vote by not showing up, right? I know, because unfortunately Memphis' even first game, you mentioned that a little bit in the pre-show, was just lackluster. It did not inspire joy, Ace.
I agree. And I think Memphis, it's so odd to me because I was at the first game last year in Memphis. We talked about, I had a little PTSD. I didn't get along with the people working there, all this stuff. It's whatever. Some people know. If you know, you know. But they showed up last year. The first game, it was pretty packed. My brother and I were able to find 2 seats down in the second row next to this delightful mother and her young son. And we were getting players to wave at us and stuff because, through this, we know a good amount of players. So they're waving at us. We had a camera. We were taking photos. There were a lot of people there. And then going into this season, it just stopped. And I don't know why, because the hype arguably was bigger this season. They should have been better. They should have been a competitor with the Birmingham Stallions. They had so much going for them, Cole Kelly, pretty decent quarterback last year. He had his ups and downs. A lot of it was he had the height and the big arm, and he could run. But they got Case Cookis. They got Troy Williams. They had good quarterbacks. They have all of the talent that you would want. They have Vito Victor. So people should have showed up at least week 1 before, the holes in the hull started showing. So I'm a little upset by that. And I agree that I would move them. You had mentioned pre-show that you would move them to Orlando. And I said that is blasphemy. Now, please tell me why you would move them to Orlando, if not New Orleans.
So the question that comes to mind is, like, again, if you're trying to fix attendance, one of the easiest ways you can do that is go to a place first and foremost that has an interest in football. Many places in Florida do. They have multiple NFL teams for a reason. College football, I mean, it is in the South. There, and SEC football just means you are yada yada, right? The other thing you have to look at is just straight up population, and Florida is one of the most populated states around. I said Orlando just because I was looking at somewhere that is not South Florida. Once I thought about it a little bit more, I think the points were made there. Maybe take it to Fort Lauderdale or something like this. If I had like a second vote, I would say try and like break it more so in the Northeast region, right? Like the Philadelphia Stars and New Jersey Generals, these were contenders in late season and postseason stuff like many years, right? I would love to see a team that is like closer to that market, to that New Jersey, New York, Philadelphia market than is the DC Defenders or I guess latitudinally my Michigan Panthers.
Latitudinally, I think that is the first time that has ever been used on the show, and you are not wrong. It's longitude and latitude. I believe we're talking
longes.
It's latitude. I believe we're talking above latitude.
Yeah.
But I also would love to see the Philadelphia Stars. As Sam Acho said, they had the Defensive Player of the Year, Chris Odom, in 2022 in the USL. No, I'm just kidding. And then you said the New Jersey Genitals, and I don't know what team that was, but I'd love to see them come back. But my knee-jerk reaction as well is Memphis. It's trash. It's bad. It looks. It's not looking good on any front. And we're going to talk more about that later, about how bad it is and what we would do about it. But what I would say right now is I think the league possibly has spurned Houston beyond repair. The way that they tore the Roughnecks out of there, replaced them with the Gamblers, which is not fair to the Gamblers coaching staff, to the Gamblers players. Whether you like how the season has went, they came in behind because they did that, because they took Wade Phillips, who lives in Houston, who coached in Houston, who people in Houston very much love, and they had a winning team last year. You take a team that went 500 and you go and you just crudely paste the Roughnecks logo over them. That's not fair for anybody involved. And then you go put Wade Phillips in San Antonio. It doesn't look good. The city doesn't like it. If you go into any Facebook group, it is a vile, disgusting place. But if you go in there, they talk about how Houston is just, the city's no longer behind the team. They just want, Wade Phillips back. They hire June Jones. I'm like, I don't know if you guys understand how football works, but okay. And so I think if you can't put a Band-Aid on that, if it's a wound that's not going to heal, I say take the Roughnecks, keep the logo, keep the team, and move them to El Paso, Texas. Now, left field. I didn't tell anybody I was going to do this. I'm a 915er. I grew up in El Paso, Texas. You know what I saw? I saw the El Paso Chihuahuas feeder team. Yeah, there you go. Feeder team. I was there when they showed up. They made a reason to go to downtown El Paso. I literally had been maybe once or twice in my life growing up until the Chihuahuas were in downtown El Paso. They sold out for the first 3 seasons because if you put El Paso on anything, now they have the El Paso Locomotive. They also use the Chihuahuas stadium, and it's a soccer team. El Paso immediately got behind that. So the fact that this city is one of those cities, we talked about it in the beginning. If Red Dawn happened in New York, they might survive. If it happens in LA or let's say Orlando, they don't survive because there's no pride in the city. People don't care. Like they're all for themselves. Where in New York, they're like, we're New Yorkers. I don't like that guy, but we're not going to let you take this borough. So it's that kind of feeling. El Paso would fight you. You got
fantastic.
You got all the moms throwing chanclas at the aliens and stuff. at whatever Russians is
never been
the
to Busch
original
Gardens days. Come on.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think
right, dude.
I think El Paso would be great. It would look better on TV. You know, it's still a Texas team, so still people in West Texas are going to get behind it. They have the West Texas Warbirds and the IFL. They have, you know, all this stuff. And they already have the Sun Bowl there, which is a very cheap stadium to use. It was voted the best stadium for the worst team. The UTEP Miners, Division I, Aaron Jones came out of UTEP. He went to the Packers, now is on my Minnesota Vikings. It's a Division I football team. They have a beautiful stadium carved into a mountain in El Paso. But our team is trash. The UTEP Miners are so bad. They still used to pull attendance. It took like 30 years of them being god awful before people stopped going. So if they were able to get a UFL team, let's get a new coach, something, whatever, I think it would work. I think it would take off, and I think it would look better on TV than Houston right now, which is falling apart. But I digress.
100% agreed. 100% agreed. Also, to add on to that, El Paso is literally like 6 times the population, right? And it's literally right across the border.
It
right?
was.
Like I'm not confusing.
No, it is. When I lived there, my father would drive to work every day, and he would drive on I-30 or I-10, and he would drive next to the border for like 30 minutes. So it is literally right across from Juarez. It's right there. Yeah, I think it would just be a great town. You know, it's huge. Before St. Louis lost their football team, it was the biggest, highest populated city without a professional sports team before St. Louis lost theirs.
Yes. Okay, I did not know that. I did not know
before
that.
They lost their
the
NFL
Oilers, Tennessee Oilers, Houston Oilers, all that whole debacle as well. You could say the Houston's used to getting their teams ripped away from them, right?
Yeah,
like,
man. Whatever. But also because West Texas is, you know, Odessa, Midland, and El Paso, and there's a lot of people that work on oil rigs, and there's a lot of oil refineries out there. You can still be the Roughnecks. You know, we're right there by the Gulf. So I think the name would still work. You don't have to rebrand. You don't have to buy new merchandise to sell to people because, you know, they literally have just boxes and boxes of T-shirts up there that have the XFL logo on the Roughneck stuff. And they're like, oh, do we sell it? Do we not? Yeah, sell it. Who cares?
Yeah.
But I digress. KB, what team would you move? Where and why?
I'm with you. I would move the boats.
Makes sense.
I really do. I'm not sure. You know, you talked about 2023 attendance, and I wonder personally if that was Brady White attendance or Showboat's attendance.
Oh, a point I didn't even realize because Brady White's starting tenure there was so short. I mean, they were building the brand around Brady White, the most winning quarterback in the University of Memphis history. He was just, you know, a name known everywhere. Man, yeah, the woman that I absolutely despised who worked at that stadium, she like was obsessed with Brady, and so he was one of the only players she actually let me talk to before I just broke the rules and got banned from the stadium. But
well,
beautiful.
He's like, you know, Memphis's like golden boy.
He is, and then he sucked.
And I just wonder if they were showing up to see him, or they were showing up because they wanted to, you know, buy into the Showboats. And I think it was a Brady White thing.
I agree. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I think we'll take attendance however it comes, right? Like 100%. At the end of the day, this is something UFL should lean into, right? The Donald De La Haye destroying whole story, everything 100%. They've talked about AJ McCarron and stuff like this, right? This is something we should embrace.
This week they should 1000% be talking about Reuben Foster making his return to Alabama. You know, he's from Alabama. He played at Alabama. Like, dude, they should be talking about it, but they're not going to because we suck. Now, let's move on. We are going to move to the power rankings. Now, usually when it's Webb and I don't know if you guys talked about this last week, but we're going to talk about it, Tugger. I hope you understand that when I say Tuggernaut and like Tugger and all that, I am referring to which movie?
Oh, the Ben Stiller. Oh my God.
I killed that which I love.
Oh my God. It's the one about the male models, right?
Like no, they're actors. Dude, it's Tropic Thunder.
Oh, there you go.
Tuggernaut
movie. My bad.
Yes, but it was Ben.
Tropic Thunder. There you go.
I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. What? All right, so
beautiful.
That's why I'm calling you Tuggernaut, Tuggers, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
But power rankings. Me and Webb used to talk about it, and we say who is one team that you would move up or down and why. I'm gonna say I'm gonna move the Brahmas down just because they have. There you go. I took it from you. I took it from you. But I'm going to say the Brahmas because they just had such a lackluster showing. Now, I do believe the Roughnecks defense, nobody talks about it. Nobody cares about it because our offense is abysmal. But I do think that since starting Quentin Dormady, they have fallen down a peg. DC just beat them. I know DC got walloped by the Panthers, but I think the top 3 are in a league of their own right now. That's why I'm moving them down. What do you think?
100% agreed. It's funny because you would see San Antonio catch way more flack for these coaching decisions if they weren't 5-2. And there's like literally 3 plays across 3 different games that they very, very, very easily could have been a 2-5 team instead of 5-2. Regardless, you took the San Antonio Brahmas. I'm gonna like. This is always like what is your definition of power rankings? Like every team played each other tomorrow. Okay, is power rankings?
That's my definition.
Exactly.
Like, if I was going to play right now,
I don't take into this whatsoever. If all 8 of these teams played each other tomorrow, like theoretical situation, Arlington up definitely, right?
Over
like,
DC.
They are close to what rushing offense, 5th overall. There's like 3 different teams within like 15 yards right there. St. Louis is 572, San Antonio or Arlington with literally 3 yards less than that, and DC Defenders like 15 yards less than that. Like these are 3 teams like pretty much all within the same. Obviously, St. Louis and DC with much better overall rankings and whatnot. Arlington up, maybe even to number 4, man. Like if you play this game against us, against Michigan, like 100 times, we don't win like 80 of those times.
It's more like a 65.
We don't win like 30 of those times, excuse me. Yeah, like 65-35, something like this, right? And you could say the same freaking thing about Arlington with like 4 of their other games, right? Yes, they have gotten walloped. Yes, like there are teams who have been put them down in the dirt, excuse me. Yes, they have also had 4 games, I believe now, that have been decided by, I think, 4 points or less, right?
Yeah, like 2 by a last-second field goal, too. Brutal loss.
Yes. And these are earned wins. I'm not saying that like Arlington should have won because you have a full football game to play and you know the rules. Like I think a lot of the conversation surrounding the UFL, it's like, oh, this team should be this, is based on this idea that like somehow one side doesn't know that the other team can go for it and do the 4th and 12 thing in the last quarter.
They know.
It's just like it happens and they just rip the rule book out. Like, how could this, but I feel like these arguments are made on that like logical basis. Everybody knows what these leagues are. Everybody knows you can go for 3. Everybody knows, every head coach knows about the 4th and 12 rules. So everybody's playing on an even playing field.
I agree. I love the way that you said, how do you look at power rankings? Because a lot of people, Memphis was not 8 for the past, they just became 8th place, I think last week. They've deserved it since probably week 3. And the only reason they weren't is because everybody's like, but they beat Houston. Okay, cool. They beat Houston in week 1, where Houston was starting Jarrett Garantano. Houston didn't look very good. Like, Houston looked better after that, while Memphis looked worse. And I think in a power ranking, I don't care what they did week 1. We're in week 5. Have they shown me anything since? Like, have they shown me that they could beat anybody? Wow. And so I think Memphis has deserved bottom spot almost the entire season, outside of post week 1. But I like what you're saying about the Renegades. But again, you have to take record at some point a little bit into consideration. Like you are what your record says. You can't close a game. Closers close. Closers get coffee. Oh yeah, Glengarry Glen Ross. I'm doing the movies here. Let's go.
I love it.
All right. Now that we've talked about power rankings, who would move up, who would move down. I know I stole your thunder, and I apologize that you wanted San Antonio, and I said I'm the Texan. But, KB, what is our next topic of the day?
Let's get into next week's game picks, gentlemen.
Let's get into the game picks, man. Who's going to beat the Roughnecks? It's whoever's playing them. But let's talk about it. We have our four games. I put our picks on here. I even put your little photo down there. We got a little tugboat. And last week, you did game picks. You went 3-1. Congratulations, sir. That is pretty good. 75% on your first week is great. I am at 15-9 at this point. I didn't do game picks last week, so I should be probably 4 behind. But let's talk about the games. I love putting this graphic up just because I think it's cool. But let's move into the games. Since I stole your thunder, I'll let you talk first. Who do you have in the Michigan Panthers playing the Memphis Showboats in Ford Field?
Okay, let's see. On one side, we have a team that everybody agrees is a top 3 team, a league of their own. I believe those are the words that you used earlier here. And we have hands down the worst team in the league. Not really much of an offense. Even they have the talent. They have the talent all day long. We've talked about that plenty. Execution, performance, a completely different story. Defense, not anywhere near as present as another team that you could say is in the running for worst team in the league. Fortunately, the Houston Roughnecks, they're not even on, like, there's not really much of an argument here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Houston's got their defense. Houston's got at least the willingness to be malleable. Memphis Showboats just don't have a whole lot. This is Memphis, and I'm not even going to say double digits. Also, we should bring this into context as well, right? All of these matchups are USFL versus USFL, and they're rematches of Week 5. This is the mirror matchup from Week 5. Just the locations are switched, right?
Yes.
Whoever played at home Week
So
5
in
is now
conference,
playing awake in Week 8. Yes.
In conference matchups, USFL versus USFL, XFL versus XFL. And yeah, this should be the, if you are looking at betting, which I know you do your secondary show. You talk about betting, which I'm surprised you picked the Panthers. You know, you have the Roughnecks rundown and all that Roughnecks memorabilia behind you. So I'm surprised
yes.
that you're rooting for the Panthers. But
I was just
agree.
going to ask that. What's the spread? Does anybody know?
You had said that it wasn't out yet.
Yeah, it's not out yet. It's so irritating.
Oh, okay.
And
Honestly,
I can't look in this state.
They got burned last week. They got burned last week on both San Antonio opening at -2 and the Birmingham Stallions opening at -3. Obviously, both of the San Antonio won by 3 and Birmingham won by 4. So
I wouldn't even be surprised if they waited until they saw the rosters. So that when they saw the starting lineups, you know, they want to see, okay, is Case Cook is going to start at quarterback? Is Troy Williams going to start at quarterback? Is Danny Etling going to start? Is it going to be Lewerke and Perkins show again? You know, but let's talk about the Lewerke Perkins show.
No.
The fact that the Michigan Panthers were able to go into DC and absolutely wallop the DC defenders. They were in control most of that game. Yes. With 2 quarterbacks who we have yet to see take a snap in the USFL, UFL, whatever you want to say. Michigan Panthers, these quarterbacks have never taken a snap. Brian Lewerke, I'll give it to him. He's been in the league for a while. But Bryce Perkins, he's been on the team 2 weeks. He pulled a Vadley season 1. And the cool thing about it is that I like that this offense, it's pretty simple. It starts with the base run package, which Wes Hills, Matt Coburn, I said it at the beginning of the season. Nobody wanted to hear it. I think that is the best running back tandem in the UFL. I understand Ricky Person is great, but CJ Marable, Roundtree, I don't think that they're as strong as a Thunder and Lightning as Wes Hills and Matt Coburn. Yep. It starts with them, and then it makes it a lot easier. They don't have to do complicated packages. Whatever quarterback they have available can come in and succeed. And I think that that is very important, where you have other teams, Houston Roughnecks. We lose a tight end in the first quarter, and suddenly our entire offensive game plan is gone. I've never heard of that before. But the Michigan Panthers, it seems like they can plug and play with whoever they want, and they can take on anybody in this league. And Memphis Showboats looks like they could have Troy Aikman come play a quarterback for them and would get sacked 9 times and they'd still lose. So this is a no-brainer. I think this should be the widest spread. It should open up at least 8.5. What do you think?
Yeah. I was going to say 8.5. Yes. Perfectly,
Sweet.
Like a point more than a touchdown. I could 100% agree with you. I would take them up to double digits and beyond, honestly.
Yeah.
The plug and play, that was going to be my second point here. If you look at what happens if XYZ player goes out for Memphis, this is somehow a show that gets worse if you take out Troy Williams, if they're losing a Vinny Papali, if they're losing an Adams over there as receiver, something like that. Whereas we have you'd almost be hard pressed to say who's the number 1 receiver at Michigan. Yeah. And then you'd really be hard pressed to say who's the number 2 receiver at Michigan after Aseosi Mariner and of course Samson Nakua have come forth and really proved themselves. Samson Nakua also doing amazing things on defense, had 3 tackles all on kicks and punts and stuff like that last week as well, right? Yes. Marcus Sims obviously numero uno, but you have literally 4, kind of 5 different receivers who could go down out God forbid for the season, but at least for the game right here and still be okay. You have one of 2 different quarterbacks who had to do the same exact thing. And you mentioned the running back packages here, the running back core between Wes Hills and the man Colburn. 139 yards, man, 139 yards. The only thing I'm upset about is he did not get a tutty.
I agree. But the last thing I want to talk about for this game real quick is that you talked about you can't even pinpoint who are the wide receiver 1, 2. You named a bunch of wide receivers who are, showing that they can do it, that they can be plugged into this offense and work. You didn't even mention Trey Quinn, who is arguably the most successful receiver in this offense. he's the reliable guy. He's the guy that they can drop down to. Him and Cole Hikatini. They have multiple tight ends that are reliable receivers. It really is. This is a quarterback's offense where whatever kind of receiver you bring in, they don't have to be a speed guy. They don't have to be a crisp route guy. They just need to be able to come in and execute, and they are going to be able to score. So, yeah, I think this is a blowout. I think this is the week where people are going to be like, oh, dang, I think the Panthers might be able to beat the Battlehawks. I don't know. Have they played yet? I don't even know. Maybe.
Yes, the Michigan Panthers gave the St.
Oh,
Louis
you're right.
Battlehawks
They beat them in week one. They beat them in week
64-yarder that Jake Bates came in. I guess it wasn't exciting enough for Ace people. I guess 64 yards, not once but twice from the ice, is not enough for Ace people.
I was there. I wasn't there, but I watched it.
Yeah.
I watched it with Buck. I watched it with Dustin and Josh over there at the bullpen with my dad, with Maverick. We all watched it at, I don't remember what, Boomer Jacks. That's what it was. Yes, great.
Hey,
one.
I love that name.
Boomer Jacks. But let's move on to the second game. I'll go first. This game, obviously, you have to tip the hat to the St. Louis Battlehawks. The St. Louis Battlehawks, like you said, week one, they lost to the Michigan Panthers. They have only looked better since. Now, they lost last week to the Birmingham Stallions, but honestly, they look better than I expected against the Stallions. I thought that was going to be the best defense they were going to face since the Michigan Panthers, and they were getting better. Their defense looked pretty good. The fact that they were able to mostly contain Adrian Martinez in the pocket and they didn't let his arm absolutely destroy them. They are looking like a championship level team. I don't know if beat the Stallions in the championship level team, but at least get there. And DC taking a step back. They went and they beat the Brahmas and everybody said, oh man, maybe they're back. After they got absolutely I was about to say a bad word. They got absolutely taken down by the Battlehawks, and then they come in, beat the Brahmas, and then they go and get mollywopped by the Panthers. I think this is just going to be a rehashing of what we saw in DC when St. Louis beat them down. I think we're going to see it, but instead in front of over 35,000 fans. What do you think?
Yeah, we need more opposites here, man.
We got one.
With you too much here.
There's not enough parity in this league now. Like, I don't believe any of these teams could win. But
that's fair enough. I mean, you said it. St. Louis looking like a championship team, 100%. Both teams looked completely mortal last week, though. I will say that it was obvious that St. Louis, like if they have task numero uno, like on the whiteboard, right, it is contain Adrian Martinez, and that is what they did last week. Not sure the exact numbers, but he had nowhere near the same numbers he had in other starts and whatnot, right? Like not even in the same ballpark. Whereas like there's the offense and there's Adrian Martinez, and both of those two are just magnificent in and of themselves, right? What we haven't talked about, though, right, is Jordan Teamo taking a nasty one, right? Concussion protocol last week against us on the Panthers. Anybody who goes forth and says that was a nasty hit, you just don't watch football. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to
was the prettiest tackle.
Really, give that more. And Reggie Barlow challenging it, like this was as standards as it gets. He's pushing through an offensive lineman. He finally gets up, and the only what is he supposed to do, man? Just cradle him, go home, tuck him in for sleep? I don't understand. But Jordan Teamo, all the respect in the world, this is not a dirty hit.
The thing I love about it is that if I was to go and coach Pee Wee football right now, kids, first time they put their helmet on, we want to teach them how do you tackle and how do you tackle in a way that you're not going to hurt yourself while you're hitting someone. You are going to show them the video of Breland Speaks taking down Jordan Teamo. He didn't lower his head at all. He kept his head up. He went through. He didn't lunge. He didn't dip into it. He didn't try and put his body weight on him. He just went through him, wrapped up. He just head up, wrapped up, and then slid right off of him and got up and started celebrating. That was a perfectly textbook tackle, like to the point where I started having flashbacks to high school when people would tell my dad, they're like, I wasn't the fastest or anything. They're like, your son has such good form, such great technique. The refs love this kid, the normal white kid stuff. And I was like, oh, that was such good form. Like, it got me all yacked up. So I loved that hit. And I think it's dumb that Barlow even thought that he would get that challenge. And yeah, we don't know yet if Teamo will even play. And if he doesn't play, they have no chance.
Yeah, the other two that came in, yes, our defense was playing great. No, they didn't show me anything. Francois a little bit, but they didn't really show me anything that I could take and say, hey, I think this team is going to do good because of this, right?
Nothing that you can hang your hat on. No.
Exactly. On the other side, there's a little bit of a different issue, right? Jordan Ta'amu, if he doesn't have a concussion, then generally they will play, 8 days technically later, right? Because they're Saturday last week, Sunday this week. Excuse me. AJ McCarron, we're looking at a different St. Louis Battlehawks here, sir. If AJ
Oh, dude.
McCarron's left ankle,
I don't even
right,
know who their
is
backup
injured,
is.
and they have not given any official news about this yet. Anthony Beck read about it. All he said is they're monitoring the situation. They're not ruling out him playing this weekend. Not ruling out him playing this weekend does not sound promising,
No.
right?
If I was a fan, if this was the NFL and I'm playing fantasy football and the quarterback says we're monitoring it and we're taking it day by day, you're like, I need to go check out the waiver wire right now. That dude is probably not playing. And I know they have Brandon Silvers, but he opened up the league at QB3, which I think that has to show how much more talent there is in this league. That he's QB3. He started on a 7-3 Roughnecks team last year, but I'm trying to remember who their QB2 is. It escapes me because at no point did I ever think that we would have to see anybody but AJ McCarron. You don't expect him to get hurt.
You're 100% right. I got you.
Who is it?
It's gonna, as soon as I see it, it's gonna be like, oh yeah, duh.
Dude, I don't remember. Come on, I heard you typing away. Let me know who it is. It Brandon Silvers, AJ McCarron, and it's
Manny Wilkins. Actually, I did not know.
Oh,
Manny Wilkins.
Yeah, I know that name. I know nothing about him, so I don't even know what team we would see. Is he a runner? Is he a passer? Literally don't even know. I don't have a face in my mind.
Regardless, I don't think that it's easily replicated what AJ McCarron has established so far with their running core so far. I mean, first and foremost, you'd have to talk about Butler, but like everybody over there, down to tight ends, right? Down to pitches thrown to running backs that have also obviously provided the St. Louis Battlehawks with a whole lot of value. And correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't even seen either of them play a snap yet. It's been AJ McCarron all the way through, right?
Yeah, he hasn't even like gotten hurt for
no change of pace, no nothing.
Yeah, it's not even like, hey, pull him out for a second so we can check on him. Yeah, and so that would be big because I don't like their run game much at all. I know Jalen Sailors, he's a good running back. Mostly because their passing game is so good that they keep the defense honest the whole game. Wayne Gallman, I think he's a very average back in this league. I think he's kind of a moot point. And then they have another guy, Durant. I think he might be out. So I don't love their run game. And I think that if AJ McCarron's out, this tips the scales. And I think things like this, Ta'amu not knowing, AJ McCarron not knowing, this is why the lines aren't out. That's 100% why we aren't able to bet on these games. Also because I'm in Texas. But let's move on. Let's move to the next game. You go first on this one. People know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, the USFL games this week, they're just gonna be one-sided. I could even see Martinez starting and then them going with another quarterback, to try and get practice, try and get other stuff. And I'm not even sure if Houston covers like a double-digit spread against even their quarterback too, against Matt Corral, or Kenji Bahar, I believe, is still quarterback 3 on the Stallion squad. They have a quarterback room that's just better than everyone else, right? And we can have that conversation about St. Louis as well if just like briefly, like I think 2 quarterback rooms have proven that they are going that not only UFL coaches are willing to go for that, but also that is probably where they should go. And I think probably that might just go down to like how many sacks, how many hits, how many stops are allowed by these offensive lines sometimes, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I love the fact that they have 2 starting quarterbacks. You hate the 2 quarterback system, but I like the way Skip's doing it. This is a 2 quarterback system we haven't seen yet, where it's not, oh, we're going to go drive for drive. Because I actually asked him about that in a press conference when they absolutely demolished us and hurt my soul in Houston a couple weeks ago. I asked Skip about it, and he said he did that, and then they immediately were like, hey, coach, it's hard to get into a rhythm. We don't feel like we're able to, get things going when we're going series for series. So that's why he started doing, okay, when Tuesday, Wednesday, you're competing, I'm going to tell you who's starting. That's who's playing this week. I think that's really cool because also if Adrian Martinez were to go down, let's say that he runs the ball and he gets hit in a way that he's not able to walk for a week or something. Matt Corral is a completely viable quarterback who has been taking QB1 snaps for when Tuesday and Wednesday, competing for that role to where you still feel like they have the upper hand. So I love that. I would love if other teams were able to do that next season. I would love to see more quarterbacks of that caliber. When Adrian Martinez was drafted by the New Jersey Generals in the USFL college draft, that was a big name on there. You didn't even know if he would be a guy who would come to this league. Now he's in this league. Matt Corral, on zero people's radars until the Stallions signed him.
I
would
still think
love
Martinez is so much better than Corral.
It's crazy.
Right?
It's crazy.
We're starting.
Dude, they should have just sent Corral to Houston. But I would love to see more quarterbacks of this caliber, and I would love to see more teams be able to use this Skip Holtz method that I think is a viable method to where each week it's one of your weeks, but you have to earn it. I like that. It's not, hey, I'm going to pull you. We've seen that, and it sucks. Nobody likes that 2 QB system, but this time we like it. Everybody's like, oh, I think Adrian Martinez has taken the role. It's like, not if he has a bad day on Wednesday, but I think it's cool. I think they're going to kill us. They're at home. Our linebacker core was depleted. So a cool storyline like AJ McCarron last week, his first return to Alabama to play in the state since college. Yeah. Reuben Foster, he wants to play in this game. I can tell you that. He did not participate in practice. He hurt his ankle. His whole family has had this game circled. They're all going. He has like 100 people. Reuben Foster has coming to this game. I'm pretty sure him and the ticket person were just like, hey, just give me an open check, right? Just a blank check, and I'm gonna write a number on it once my family says how many they want. And slide then
it back on over like in the movies.
Yeah,
like you write it on a post.
He's like, here's my final number.
We can do that.
He's like, okay. He's like, and the kids too, huh? Okay. So I think that's a cool storyline. It's not going to be talked about. If you saw me post earlier on Twitter, I went in the media call today 2 minutes late, and they had already ended it because nobody was in there. Where the hell is the Houston media? Where are the news stations? Where's, magazines, anything, dude? Like, I showed up 2 minutes late and it's already done because nobody's there. Nobody cares about Houston because we're eliminated from the playoffs when we have players trying to get back into the league. We have Reuben Foster going to play in Birmingham after playing in Alabama. Like, this is big and it's cool.
Yes.
But nobody's going to talk about it. And then, our linebacker core is just depleted. So Reuben might not play because he's hurt. Our other starting linebacker, Gabriel Sewell, he's out for the season. We had to pick up Dejon Hines and Christian Sam. So the fact that the middle, the play callers of the defense might be different this week. Our defense is the one thing that's kept us in games this year. And I think that it might not even be where it was this week. Our defense might not even be where it was last time we got crushed by the Stallions, which means that we could get just murdered. And it might be a game that I don't watch for my own mental health. We'll see.
It's entirely fair. This was a double-digit loss last time. Agree, Houston's defense right there has kept them in many games thus far. Stallions, I mentioned it, outside of them maybe like resting starters or having them start, and then once they have a comfortable lead, I guess a comfortable lead would really be like 17 points, right? Or I guess 19 points, right, with the 9
Yeah,
points.
you got to get at least a 3 possessions, right?
Yeah, like for a really truly comfortable lead, and then have somebody like Matt Corral and stuff like this come in. But yeah, it's going to be a rough one. It's going to be a rough one. I'm not going to say it's impossible. Again, this is the Stallion squad that showed us last week that even gods can bleed, man. They were completely mortal when we were talking about the St. Louis Battlehawks. Yes, obviously, and then that was a home game for them as well, right? Kind of like the preview of the UFL, what we believe to be the UFL is going to be the UFL championship. Obviously, that's confirmed. That's going to be in St. Louis, though. Yeah. This is again at Birmingham, correct? Like
it's in Protective. Right? Yep, I have the stadium. Got it. So with these graphics, I always put on the left, it's the home team, on the right, the away team, and in the background, it is the stadium they're playing in. This one is Protective. You can see the UAB like generic dragon logo in the middle.
If I just opened my eyes and read and like looked at it a little bit more, I probably could have sussed that out for myself, right?
It's whatever. All right, but I loved. We got killed. I still bought 2 shirts. Just so you know, because I entered that Under Armour, giveaway. I'm like, hey, this league has put me through hell. You might as well take me to the championship for free.
We talked about this last week a little bit. the support from local media markets. I mean, like that right there, what you just said, Ace, is a perfect example of why you and I, who love this league, were just talking about which two teams should go, and this because they do not get that kind of support and whatnot, and that's the only way that these leagues are going to grow. That and well, the other thing we talked about, which is getting star player and getting those eyes inside, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's star players from college that chose the league and chose not to go on to the NFL like AJ McCarron, or whether that's NFL players that came down and still have that star power available. You need this for the league, and Houston just doesn't have that. Houston just doesn't have that. Like, yes, you can elimination of the league and stuff like this. I'm still excited to watch this Houston squad play. I'm still going to watch every single one of these games, and I still hope that there are fantastic games. There are players with standout stats who can go forth, take tape, two leagues. Even we always talk about the NFL and stuff like that. We forget there's other, there is technically the European League of Football, right? The ELF. There is technically, or not technically, I do like the Canadian Football League, the CFL, going for the Grey Cup up there. There are other leagues besides the NFL that these guys can go play for before the NFL season even starts. Yes, the ideal, the pie in the sky is the NFL for all of these players, as it should be. But there are other places, there are other ways these players can play, and they're not going to do that if everybody just gives up on them.
I agree. All right, and with that, we have one more game to talk about. Tugboat, this is the one game that we don't agree on. And I think the cool thing is that we are on the sides of who we picked. So go first, man. You picked the Renegades. Why did you pick the 1-5, 1-6 Renegades?
Because of the power rankings. We literally just talked about it here, Ace. It is funny because you mentioned take the Brahmas down, then my second pick of who I had to go with, taking the Arlington Renegades and going right up with them.
I didn't realize that it did do that, so it's kind of tough on me.
It all comes down. It all makes sense.
I'll work on it.
Full circle right here. Bob Stoops and whatnot. Again, this is not a team that is reflective of their 1-6 record. There was much less controversy on the UFL power or UFM power rankings on Twitter this week when it came to all this. There was a couple of delusionals. One of them said one of them said
he said like Renegades at 4 or something.
Yes.
And I was like, come on.
DC at 5, and I don't see how you put DC at 5 over San Antonio. Regardless, again. I will go back to my earlier point here. Wade Phillips is making the same coaching mistakes that we see teams with much worse records doing. It just hasn't come back to bite them yet. I think that this San Antonio Brahmas squad has gotten to the record of 5-2 so far by some really, really clutch plays and maybe just a little bit of pixie dust, a little bit of luck, right? And the exact opposite can be said for the Arlington Renegades. Luis Perez can have ice in the veins. It has just not worked out so far for them across 4 different games, losing by a point differential of 4 or less. 2 walk-off field goals so far to have beaten them right here. But I'll say all of this with a big fat asterisk because one of these teams, it just doesn't it doesn't matter, but there are no more playoff implications from this game. San Antonio has everything in a bag of chips to play for right here. They are also playing at home, correct? Yep, left side right there in the Alamo Dome. But who likes playing spoiler more than Luis Perez? Who likes doing this more than Stoops? I'm going Arlington Renegades. Not by a lot, but I'm going Arlington Renegades.
No, true, because, if we're going to talk Oklahoma coaches, I think that Bob Stoops is much more the guy who will try to come back with a vengeance and play spoiler than some POS like Lincoln Riley, who would probably give up and try and move to California and get someone to give him a house. But I would say that, sorry, I'm a Baylor guy. I despise Oklahoma.
Good.
Boomer loser. But I just don't think so. These teams, Arlington has found ways to lose, while San Antonio has found ways to win. And when you come together, I have to take that as a way, okay, the week that the Brahmas barely beat Memphis, where they scored the 2 touchdowns in 1 minute and 14 seconds, like, okay, once a coincidence, twice, you're cooking something. What is it? Once a coincidence, I don't remember.
But once it's a coincidence, twice is a pattern, and third is a theme.
Yeah, and third is a theme, and I mean, they've done it 3 different times where they're able to come back and win games, and so I just have to believe that there's a reason behind it. Like, yes, Wade Phillips, when they were like, why did you kick it off instead of going for the 4th and 12? And he was like, 3 timeouts. That waist high dude who blocked me on Twitter. But I still think he made the wrong decision, and they did lose that game. But I just think that Arlington, if they didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all, man. And they are finding ways to lose where San Antonio is finding ways to win. I think that San Antonio should start Kevin Hogan this week. He came in, he looked better. I think he went 7 for 10, so 70% passing, where Quentin Dormady is barely above 50% completion. He's showing no accuracy. He has to have receivers that can take the top off to where he can just throw it down there and let them get under it. I think Kevin Hogan starts. I think their defense is good enough to hold Perez. I think that they should win this, especially at home when playoffs are in the picture. They should be able to put at least 13,000, 14,000 fans in that stadium and be loud enough to affect the Renegades and win. But this is the one game where it is kind of a toss-up. You don't know. Will the Renegades boss up and be like, you know what? Let's play spoiler? Or are they going to kind of bend over and just take it for the rest of the season? I don't know. But that is the end of the game picks. I like our game picks. I enjoy the one that we have different. I think I'm right, but only time will tell. KB, what is our next topic of the day?
All right. So the Roughnecks, the Showboats, and the Renegades have been eliminated from the playoffs already.
Great.
What I want to know is what immediate move do each of those teams need to make to be more successful next season?
All right. So, Tugboat, I'm going to I'll go first. It's my team. I'll talk about it. The Houston Roughnecks. The first thing I want to see is Curtis Johnson not call offensive plays. The past few weeks, he has taken over as the play caller. He needs to stop doing that. And then secondly, I want to see younger guys playing. We lost. We suck. We don't look good. I think we need to bring in the younger guys and let the guys who have more of a shot at moving up to the NFL and getting looks on practice squads than the dudes who are like, I love Toby Johnson, but for him to go in and play, like, he is over 30 years old. The NFL does not take players that are that old. We need to let the younger guys play. I think this week, Nolan Henderson should be the starting quarterback going in. The younger guys with CJ just focusing on knowing when to actually call timeouts and when to challenge plays, and let Eric Price just call the plays. Like, just hand it back over, put the young guys in, and let Nolan Henderson run around and be at least exciting to watch. That's what I want to see. What do you think of Houston?
Hey, give the man an iPad and send him along his way. He spends enough time screaming for one on the sideline, right? Now, all jokes aside, there's never been a more clear example in these spring football leagues, in my opinion, than Curtis Johnson, or CJ Johnson, excuse me, the head coach right here. Get him gone, and honestly, I mean, mid-season changes like that are not really a spring football kind of thing. If they're going to, wouldn't it come from a team that only had one win going into week 8? That I would love to see somebody else playing calls right here. And you hit the nail on the head. When you come down to something just as basic as calling timeouts and stuff like this, it almost makes you think that this is a squad that was just phoning it in. That was just eliminated from the playoffs and had just simply given up. As far as other personnel, I would love to. I would mildly agree with you on the younger guy part, but especially when it comes to some of the wide receiver core, right? I'll never forget. Sin can spin it. I love that. I love that title name of the Roughnecks rundown, or excuse me, of my Roughnecks rundown.
Of your Roughnecks rundown. That was a creative one, Tug.
Roughnecks rundown episode. I felt really smart when I came up with it. But get these guys just a little bit better. Like, again, this still comes down to the head coach and whatnot. But if I'm looking for like a second thing to change, which is what we're really delving into here, I believe, is that improve that just like a little bit more. There's an entire question mark around a lot of the running back here, right? Everybody was just so much on Mark Thompson. Then he was kind of used and he wasn't utilized. There's been obviously all kinds of other stuff on social media and stuff, but there's nothing clear, and I think that's something we can all agree on right here. I think Mark Thompson had plenty coming into the season. Coming out of the season, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe there is time to let other guys, what's the guy's name?
DJ Pledger, Tion Evans.
There you go. TJ Pledger the fourth. It's weird how I remember the fourth part of that. Like,
you did. That's random because I never remembered the fourth part.
There you go. Right. But let these guys. I'm not saying they need a clear house there. I'm saying I would like to see that before it's further evaluated by me. Wide receivers, mix this up a little bit more and have more defined roles when it comes to the wide receiving core.
I agree. I can agree with that. Obviously, as the Roughnecks guy and as a guy who has to go and talk to CJ once a week on a media call, I don't want to call for his firing, not until it happens. So I'm not going to be like, send him home. Because then if he happens to watch the show, I get to be on the media call and be like, hey, man, how's it going? You know, like you're still here.
You ask me a question, I give you an answer.
And I enjoy your answer. That's why, you know, I like the differing answers so that you can sometimes say the things that are in my head that I don't feel comfortable saying yet. Now we move on. I'll go first. Let's talk about the Memphis Showboats. This is where I think we need to clean house. He kept the defensive coordinator from last season. We have, Carnell Lake. I think he's still good. I think a big piece was that they lost Troy Warner. They lost Fred Warner's brother. He accumulated like over 70 tackles last season, and he was a big part of keeping the top on that defense, and that top seemed to just be gone coming into this season. I think if you want to just clean house, you know, we talked about moving the team, new head coach, new offensive coordinator. I do not like head coaches being offensive coordinators in this league. I think the only one who does it successfully is Skip Holtz, and everybody else needs to just stop it. Like, I want a head coach who pays attention to timeouts, to game clock management, and I want an offensive coordinator who just calls plays. Like, come on, man. There's roles for a reason, but I think you clean house here. I think the Memphis Showboats should start from scratch next season. They kind of did this season, honestly, with the dispersal draft. They got a completely new offense. Like, their defense was mostly intact, but I think they just need to clean house and start over. What do you think?
I think I would agree with you. The head coach, I did not know the man's name before this. I'll admit I looked it up.
John
Turner,
DiFilippo,
coordinator.
Yes.
And the offensive line coordinator. Good God, Cookus could not buy grass behind that offensive line, man. They were. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I remember from the broadcast, partly because they couldn't stop talking about it, partly because it's hard to stop watching, or it's hard to forget when you're watching this happen, right? The amount of sacks coming into the quarterback, the amount of pressure just in general is just absolutely brutal. Yes, Case Cookus did disappoint a little bit. I would have loved to see an extra 3/4 of a second on every single offensive play that a better offensive line could have purchased him, right? The wide receiver core here in the tight end for the tight what's his name? The star tight end for the Memphis
Sage
Surratt. Thank you, sir. These are not problems whatsoever. In fact, the wide receiving core with Adams,
it's so good. David Davis, Sage Surratt.
Yeah, there you go.
It's too good.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
I think they have Lee Morris too.
That is one thing that does not need to change down there in Memphis. Maybe the change back down to New Orleans is necessary. Maybe somewhere else. Maybe keep him there. I can't imagine that you can really make a case for keeping him there next season. But the wide receiving core, I'll leave it at that. I don't think that needs to change. John DiFilippo, I feel like this is more of a like overall like almost. I guess I hate the term, but culture or something like that, or whatever he's doing just isn't working. Yeah. It's not the same mistakes that you see on, with the head coach of a good team like the San Antonio Browns and Wade Phillips. It's not something that you see with the head coach of a, team that's 1-6 or 1-6 or 1-7. Excuse me, right?
No, 1-6. 1-6.
1-6. Excuse me. Yeah, because that's 7, and then we're going to.
There's 3 1-6 teams. We're talking about all 3 of them right now.
Yes, exactly. It's not the same. Just absolutely mind-blowing mistakes on like when it comes to like basic stuff like calling timeouts and stuff like that you see with Johnson in Houston and whatnot. I'll give him that much is what I'm saying. And when Cookus goes forward and cooks, right? Everybody's talking about it towards the beginning of it. It worked within it. Obviously, it didn't go forth and find W's off of it. A lot of that could be attributed to the defense as well, though.
So I like that you brought up the culture. And that reminds me of the fact that last season, they had the preseason scrimmages. That was actually when I got in trouble in Memphis. But the Breakers came up and who did they play? I don't remember. The Breakers came up and I think they played the Showboats in the scrimmage. And it was the first like full speed, real game speed stuff that they were going to do. And the Breakers were so unorganized and so undisciplined. There were so many fights that Moose Johnson actually came down on the field, called it early, and said that it was the most egregious thing he'd ever seen. This is something I haven't said because, the USFL used to watch the things that we said and we'd immediately get a DM if we said something they didn't like. But the UFL doesn't give a damn about us, so they're not going to see what I'm saying. So, yeah, there were so many fights that John DiFilippo actually went up to the Showboats and apologized because he was like, that was awful. I did not have control of my players. We heard a very similar thing come out of the Showboats camp this year in the preseason scrimmages that his team started a lot of fights, were undisciplined, and then it's just showing up on the field. And when you have, they had West Hills and MBT, and they had guys last year who were able to handle that and see the calm through the storm. And West Hills is a battering ram, and they ran him like 40 times. It literally, they ran him like almost 30 times a game. It was crazy. Almost 30 times a game they ran West Hills. And I think that was a big reason that their offense worked and their offensive line looked decent. Then coming into this season, Darius Victor doesn't look like he looked. They're undisciplined up front. They aren't able to do a run game. And so Case Cookus, even though he hasn't played in 2 games, is still holds the record for the highest amount of QB hurries and sacks in this league. So yeah, I just think DiFilippo does not have control over a culture. This is his first like real head coaching professional football. CJ and John DiFilippo, they're both guys who this is their first professional head coaching job. And it just seems like they both were really good where they were. CJ is a prolific wide receiver coach. John DiFilippo is a good quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator. And maybe that was the peak. That was the ceiling.
Yeah.
And now they're in over their heads, right? So that's what I have to say about that. And let's go talk about the last one, which this is the hardest one, in my opinion. And we couldn't even kind of agree on it before the show.
No.
The Arlington Renegades. What do they need to do? My thing is, I think it's kind of like where I looked at with Houston. You need to just make it exciting for the rest of the season because it's the hub team. They're the reigning champions. They just need to show some kind of life, which also the Renegades fans who on my post where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do the Roughnecks rundown anymore. This isn't fun. And they were like, it's not fun to be a Renegades fan. Okay. You guys won a championship last year.
Yeah.
I watched the Houston Gamblers for 2 seasons and then watched this. We are not the same. We are not the same. I have been through it. But I think they need to start Lindsey Scott for the rest of the season. I think they need to bring in some younger guys on defense. Their defense can't get worse at this point. It's bad.
Yes.
I think bring it, let the younger guys play, see if something sparks, see if somebody is a gamer and they're not showing you it in practice, but they can play. I think they just need to make it exciting for the rest of the season. What do you think?
100% agreed. And then on the obviously playing out the rest of the season, not just giving up because you're limited from playoffs, even coming off of a come from behind Arlington Renegades W in the XFL last season. Bob Stoops, I don't have a problem with whatsoever. He's not showing the same, just like, again, mind-blowing and just like very obvious
like
errors and playing calling and stuff like that. I also think he's got a better staff around him and that we have really exciting, really good football players when you're talking about, I hate the term, but the so-called skilled positions, right? Quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, of course. But what do they need to do? What do they need to do for next season? Maybe they need to find God. They just need to roll more natural 20s or something. They need some sort of blessing to get this bad luck off of them. That this is just something that I've not observed from a football team so far. Four games so far, less than 4 points. Couple walk-off field goals. One of them longer than most NFL kickers would actually make. Right?
Yeah.
This is just the result of bad luck. Maybe it's the football gods getting them back for like the Luis Perez trade last season for a single offensive lineman that had 3 tackles and played in 2 games to get Luis Perez on their squad. Who knows? Maybe it's just the writing of the ship, right? Just the cosmic, the universe and the cosmos telling us, hey, you won last season. Now you get slapped around here in 2024.
I agree. And I love the fact that you had a D&D reference there. You talked about rolling nat 20s. I looked around because I have dice somewhere here. I got them as a wedding gift. Someone gave me custom dice in a roller that they made. But I love that. Yeah, they need to roll more nat 20s. But I do like what you're saying. This is the correcting of the ship, that things tilted their way more than it should have last season, right? So when I look at alcohol and hangovers, it's kind of like you drink because you're kind of stealing the fun from later to have more fun now. And then you're hungover later because now there's that lack of fun, right? So you take it and you party now with all that energy that you were going to have later. Yeah. And then when you get there, it's not there and you're hungover. I think that's kind of what happened. They were like, all right, season 2, wash, pull it here. Yeah. We're going to win the championship. And the next season, we're going to bend over. We're going to say, yes, please. Like, I get it. I don't know. The fact is that they are still a decent football team. They aren't the sinking shipwreck that the other two are. And so it's harder to be like, what moves do they need to make? Because with the other two teams, it's a lot easier to say, fire the head coach, clean shop, bring in new players and coaches. when you have Bob Stoops, Luis Perez, Lindsey Scott Jr., like these things that are working, they just aren't, they're coming up just barely short. And so you're like, I don't really know what makes the difference. Because you do want to have a name like Bob Stoops in this league. You know, Luis Perez is the king of spring. He's thrown the first touchdown, or he scored the first touchdown in the last 3 spring football leagues. The dude is a god in this realm. I don't know. I don't know what they do. I just think at this point, you know, make it fun. Make it fun. It's like in The Longest Yard when they realized that, you know, no matter what they did, they were still going to go back to prison. It's like, let's just win. Let's make it fun. So, yeah. But with that, it brings us to the final segment that we have. And I love the little thing that we have that plays here. It's the blind side. All right. KB, what is our blind side?
Okay, so I'm pivoting, gentlemen, because I had 2 blind sides.
Pivot!
And I'm not going to use either one of them. Based on our conversations,
Third time's the charm.
I'm going to wing it.
Perfect.
Okay, so your answers to the last question made me, or brought this tweet to mind. So Jaron Horton, who was last year's USFL Assistant Coach of the Year, on Sunday at 6:51 p.m. tweeted, just putting it in the universe that I'm going to be a head coach in the UFL next year. Give me the opportunity and it will pay off. And he tagged the UFL and The Rock. So my question to you is, if you are the UFL or The Rock, out of the 3 teams that you identified, the Roughnecks, the Showboats, or the Renegades, which one do you hire Jaron Horton to coach next year?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Mirror ace.
I actually DM'd Jaron about this.
There you go.
I DM'd Jaron.
I think we have Ace's answer here, folks.
But here, you go first, Tug, because my answer might surprise you.
Hey, treat it like the beginning of a Captain's Log episode. Memphis. Absolutely all day long. Memphis Showboats would love to see that. Absolutely love to see that. There's some themes going on there as well, right?
Dude, I also think Memphis. I also think Memphis, or wherever Memphis shows up. Why do I think that? Because I'm in the Houston culture. I've never lived in Houston. Like, I dated a girl from there once. But, like, I am so plugged in now that I know that the next head coach of the Houston Roughnecks has to be somebody with a strong connection to Houston. Has to be somebody like, you know, give me a Lovie Smith. Give me... Shoot, pull Matt Schaub out of the air. I don't even know what that dude's doing. Give me somebody that is Houston related. Shoot, put Kevin Sumlin back. Kevin Sumlin was the head coach at the University of Houston with Case Keenum at quarterback, and they had the highest average scoring offense in University of Houston history. Give me Kevin Sumlin. Give me somebody that the city of Houston will get behind. Do I think Jaron would do a great job? Did I literally DM him and say, hey, man, what do I have to do to get you in Houston next year? And it came down to, I'm going to blackmail Moose Johnston. We're going to figure it out. I'm going to get some dirt on this man, and we're going to do it. But
I personally, I will not tolerate Jaron Horton slander. Like, we need that man being the head coach of a team in this league.
Now,
next season.
I would love him in Houston. But my problem with it, and it's not even mine, is that the rest of Houston would have a problem with it. Because it's another, you know, has never been a professional head coach, is trying to, you know, prove themselves. And at this point, Houston wants somebody who is proven. Whereas I think Memphis, if they move, if they stay, whatever, they just want a fresh face. That's all they want. And so I think Jaron would have an easier time winning over that culture and that fan base than he would with the absolute toxicity that I've seen out of Houston. That's just my 2 cents.
100%. There's less competition for teams in Memphis. Obviously, there's the NFL team. There's 2 different there's an XFL team and a USFL team from Houston and stuff like that. I just think they have other things, like so many other things to figure out. We talked about Memphis earlier. Biggest. You said clear house. You know, if it's not bolted, sell it. If it's not bolted to the ground, sell it. Right.
Put it on the lawn.
That there was a few things, right? There's a few things that were going right there, but similar to my answer, but not the same. But similar to my answer, the Houston Roughnecks. That starts the head coach, goes down from there. Nothing against John DeFilippo. It's just not working. He doesn't have the locker room. Does not have the culture, as we were talking about. I think that'd be a massive upgrade.
I think Memphis. I agree. Even though selfishly, I would love to have Jaron, because it's also a head coach that is like a man of the people. The dude is in the PFN Discord. The dude responds to my DMs. You know, when I did the 100-day countdown and I challenged myself to do 100 graphics for the countdown till UFL kickoff, he DM'd me because me, Jaron Webb, we go back. We went and visited them in Canton, and Jaron took us into a defensive meeting. I got to sit there with Bryce Torneden, Reuben Foster, like all these dudes, and me and Webb and Lowe were just sitting in there watching them go over defensive tape with Jaron Horton. And it was super cool. And so we have a relationship with Jaron. So when I did the 100-day countdown, he DM'd me out of nowhere and he was like, hey, I just want to let you know you've been killing it with these last couple graphics. Because we were getting towards the end. I was really hitting a stride. And so I love him. And I think defensively, I don't think you can find a better defensive mind that hasn't already been picked up in the NFL. I think he deserves to be an NFL coach right now. But if he still needs to prove it, selfishly, I want him to prove it on the team that I'm covering.
Well, and Houston's defense, Oh, I'm so sorry, KB. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the UFL needs. If he doesn't go to the NFL, the UFL needs to find a place for him.
I agree.
Fans love him. Fan media loves him. He's super engaging. He's super open.
He's a great story.
People connect to him. He's a fabulous story. People will follow him. People will show up at games to watch his success. And I think it's critical to the growth of the league.
I agree. Getting younger coaches in there. When it's like CJ and John DeFilippo, both of them almost didn't take the jobs with the USFL because of medical reasons, because they are getting older and they do have, these things that are coming up in life. And it's like, why are we not giving it to these guys like Jaron Horton? That's the whole point of this league, right? Like the USFL specifically had a lot of young guys nobody heard of. And that's why a lot of people did gravitate towards the XFL, because they had the Martavis Bryants, they had the AJ McCarrons, they had these players. It was flashier. Yeah. It had guys you knew. But the USFL had really leaned into, like the Houston Gamblers were, I think the average age of a player on the team last year was 23.5 years, which is so low. And I want to see the same kind of thing with coaches. Like, cool, John DeFilippo and CJ Johnson both got their first shot at a head coaching job, but also they've been in so long that it's like, why is this their first shot? Maybe there's a reason. Maybe we give the younger guys who just haven't gotten a shot yet, right? So, yeah, I think it would be a win all around. I would love it. Jaron Horton is the number one guy I want to see in this league next year. Yes.
Like, I pull so many points from other things we've talked about previously in this episode as well, right? KB talking about how people will show out. We talked extensively about how getting butts in the seats first and foremost, right? But so much more so for online or for the broadcast and whatnot, right? People will tune into these things when they see headlines with this man's name attached to them. Simple as that. Yeah. Going back to your point, Ace, right? What is the one thing you can't really complain right now about the Houston Roughnecks? You said the defense and what they've been doing the past few weeks and whatnot. And we just talked about how this head coach Horton, is just so much better. I can't say better defensively, but you said creative defensive mind. That is exactly what I said that Memphis needs, right? I was saying how a lot of their skill positions, how a lot of their offenses is exactly what the Dr. Orton and whatnot, and with and outside of the offensive line, a lot of what they can improve upon is their defense and stuff like that. That's what this man can provide.
Yep. I love it. I think it would be fantastic. Fun fact, the GM of the Memphis Showboats, Dennis Polian, I met him at game 1 when we played them in Houston, the Showboats. Great guy. He lives here in Waco. So I was talking to him about, we live in the same place where we talked a few times online. Very nice guy. He was set to be the Maulers GM going into season 3. So you could clean house, get a new head coach, bring in Jaron Horton. you already have the GM that he brought into where were they? Pittsburgh, technically not Pittsburgh, but to the Pittsburgh Maulers to be the GM. So he would come in and be with the guy he wanted to be with in the first place. I think it would just work. I think it'd be cool. And selfishly, I want to see it. I just want to see it. I'm a selfish guy sometimes. Like I said, I watched 2 years of Gamblers and then this BS. I want something.
Oh.
Yeah.
I hear you. If we're talking expansion, taking it just makes sense. Take the Houston Gamblers, take them to Las Vegas, leave the Houston Roughnecks for either Houston or the point that you made that I had not heard before, out to El Paso, which I cannot disagree about whatsoever.
It would be so sick.
Obviously, Texas will show out for their football and whatnot. Houston has just been
it's so saturated.
There's been so much back and forth, right? And with the NFL, I mean, shout out to the Texans. They did pretty well last year and whatnot. After just being the
I'm on the bandwagon this year.
Walking.
I mean, I'm a Vikings fan through and through, but I am rooting for the Texans to do well. They have my man Jalen Petrie. I watched him all his years at Baylor. Love him. Like, I like CJ Stroud. I like what they're doing. Other than week 3 when they play the Vikings, I love the Texans. I think they're a great team.
The hierarchy is established here.
The hierarchy is established. But I think that's all we had to talk about. I think that was a very good blindside. KB, I was not expecting that. That was a sick blindside. I really like that blindside. I wonder what the other ones were, and I assumed that they were going to be a little more painful to answer. So I'm glad that we got that one. But with
maybe
that,
future Polar Opposites episodes, right?
More solar opposites, who knows? But I have absolutely enjoyed this. Tugboat, me and you, we are 2 vines on the same tree, whereas we're both on the same trunk, where Webb and I are different branches. Let's say that, where you and I talk a lot. Webb is less of a talker. He says things and he's got a reason, and he's going to say what he has to say. Whereas me and you, we're like,
plenty of them in the Discord, man.
Me and you were like, let's just talk. Let's just talk.
Yeah, I hear you.
So it's probably a little bit longer of an episode, but I have enjoyed it. Thank you, Tugboat, for filling in. KB, you are wonderful. I love that Tugboat got you talking more last week, and so I feel a little more comfortable making you talk a little more. I love it. This has been a great episode.
Yes.
KB, is that the end?
I think that's it, gentlemen.
All right, Tugboat, put them up with me. Put them up and lean back.
Guys. Appreciate y'all.
And lean back. Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching the UFM United Football Media. If you like that, please make sure to like and subscribe. Also, if you want more videos, you can check them out on our channel over here. The best one for you is right here. And then if you liked mine, the rest of my playlist is right here. Thank you, guys, and I hope to see you next time.